In the grand halls of Versailles, where golden mirrors once reflected the glory of absolute monarchy, a different kind of reflection would emerge by 1774, one of decay, corruption, and ultimate human frailty. The man who began as Louis the Well-Beloved would die as Louis the Hated, his body consumed not just by disease, but by the very poison of his own reign. This is the shocking true story of how a king's moral rot manifested in his physical destruction, and how his putrefying corpse became the perfect symbol of a monarchy that had already begun to devour itself from within. Welcome to Empress Secrets, the channel where we uncover the dark, glamorous, and untold stories of queens, mistresses, and the women who shaped empires. If you love royal scandals, forbidden love, and lessons from history that hit harder than any self-help book, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell right now, because today's story will leave you speechless. Louis XV's reign is one of history's most dramatic reversals of fortune, a cautionary tale about unchecked power, abandoned responsibility, and how even the most beloved ruler can fall into hatred. When smallpox finally claimed him in May 1774, it did so with such violent cruelty that even his most loyal servants fled from the stench of his decomposing flesh. But this horrific death was only the final act in a decades-long tragedy that set the stage for the bloodiest revolution the world had ever seen. To truly understand the horror of Louis XV's end, we must go back to a 5-year-old orphan boy who was suddenly thrust onto the throne of Europe's most powerful nation. The contrast between the innocent child king and the diseased tyrant he became reveals the complete moral and physical collapse of a 59-year reign. 1715, the Sun King, Louis XIV, has just died after 72 years on the throne. The longest reign in European history, France is exhausted from endless wars and drowning in debt. His chosen heir is a fragile 5-year-old great-grandson, Louis XV, both his parents already dead from disease. The little boy doesn't even understand what a king is, yet the entire nation pins its hopes on him. During his minority, France is ruled by a regent, Philippe d'Orléans. Surprisingly, these years are liberal and prosperous. The economy recovers. The court breathes again. The young Louis is given the finest education: languages, history, science, war, diplomacy. Teachers say he is brilliant, kind, and handsome. The people adore him. They truly believe this beautiful child will usher in a new golden age. In 1723, at just 13, Louis XV begins ruling in his own name. France explodes with joy. He is tall, athletic, golden-haired, blue-eyed, literally the most handsome man in Europe. The people nickname him Louis the Well-Beloved, le bien-aimé, and in the beginning he deserves it. 1725, he marries the sweet, pious Polish princess Marie Leszczyńska. She is 7 years older, but the marriage is happy at first. She gives him 10 children in 10 years, securing the dynasty. Louis supports the Enlightenment, funds scientists, artists, philosophers. France remains the cultural capital of the world. But even in these golden early years, the cracks are there. Louis hates paperwork. He is indecisive, prefers hunting and pleasure to governing. And most dangerously, he starts relying on favorites and mistresses for political advice. Unlike Louis XIV, who ruled with iron discipline, Louis XV wants to enjoy life. The court slowly becomes infamous for its libertinage, sexual freedom that shocks even 18th century Europe, and that is where the tragedy begins. The first major test comes in 1740, the War of the Austrian Succession. France jumps in to block Britain and support Prussia. 8 brutal years, massive cost, thousands dead. Louis personally leads troops. He's brave. But his strategy is terrible, influenced by court gossip more than generals. The war ends in 1748 with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. France gets nothing. All territories returned. The people are furious. We fought 8 years and bled dry for nothing. The nickname Well-Beloved starts sounding like a cruel joke, and then comes the scandal that changes everything. Louis' marriage is crumbling under the weight of constant pregnancies. The queen retreats into religion. Louis turns to mistresses openly. The most famous is Madame de Pompadour, born Jean Antoinette Poisson, a bourgeois girl, clever, beautiful, cultured. She engineers a meeting with the king at a masked ball in 1745. Within months, she is installed at Versailles as official mistress, maîtresse en titre. She is not just a lover. She becomes his closest advisor, controls access to the king, appoints and fires ministers, influences war and peace. The nobility hate her, a commoner telling them what to do. Pamphlets call her a whore draining France dry, but Louis is obsessed. He builds her the Petit Trianon, showers her with jewels, titles, power, and France pays the price. 1756. The 7 Years' War explodes. France versus Britain and Prussia, a global conflict. French armies are crushed. Canada, India, Caribbean islands, almost the entire overseas empire lost forever. The Treaty of Paris 1763 is a national humiliation. France reduced to a second-rate power. The treasury bankrupt. Taxes crush the poor while nobles pay nothing. Louis XV spends more time hunting and in bed than fixing the mess. Madame de Pompadour dies in 1764. Louis is devastated, but not for long. Enter the final mistress, Madame du Barry, a former prostitute. Stunningly beautiful, crude, greedy, Louis falls hard, buys her a palace, slaves, diamonds the size of eggs. She is hated even more than Pompadour. The court calls her the whore from the gutters. But Louis doesn't care. He is now completely detached from reality. He famously says, "Après moi le déluge," after me the flood. He knows the storm is coming. He just doesn't care. By the 1770s, France is a powder keg. National debt astronomical. Taxes crushing the Third Estate. Bread riots everywhere. Enlightenment writers like Voltaire and Rousseau openly mocking absolute monarchy. Pamphlets calling the king weak, debauched, ruled by prostitutes. 1757, an assassin named Damien stabs Louis. He survives, but the trial reveals millions hate him. Louis responds by retreating further into pleasure. He builds the Parc-aux-Cerfs, a private harem of teenage girls procured for him. The scandals are endless. Religious France is horrified. The Jesuits are expelled. The church turns against him, and all the while the people starve. Now let's talk about the women who shaped this disaster, because behind every fallen king is a story of love, power, and betrayal. Madame de Pompadour, the bourgeois who became queen in all but name. She wasn't just beautiful. She was a genius, patronized Voltaire, funded the Encyclopédie, built Sèvres porcelain, designed the Place de la Concorde, told Louis the truth when no one else dared. Masterminded the diplomatic revolution, flipping France's alliance from Prussia to Austria. But she paid the price. The stress killed her at 42. Then came Madame du Barry. The opposite, low-born, vulgar, extravagant, spent millions while children starved, sold government posts, even clashed with the new Dauphine Marie Antoinette, who refused to speak to that creature. Louis forced Marie Antoinette to greet her at the 1772 New Year's ball with the famous line, "There are many people at Versailles today." The court saw it as the final humiliation. By 1774, Louis XV is 64, old for the time. He looks tired, worn out by decades of excess. And then fate strikes. April 1774, Louis is at the Petit Trianon with du Barry. He feels unwell, headache, fever, exhaustion. Doctors think it's just fatigue from hunting. But on 28 April, the first pustules appear, smallpox, the most feared disease of the century. No cure, highly contagious, kills 1 in 3. Panic explodes at Versailles. Courtiers flee, even du Barry is sent away. Louis is moved to the state bedroom, windows sealed. The stench begins almost immediately. The disease is virulent, probably variola major. Within days, his entire body is covered in pus-filled blisters. They merge into one giant scab. His face, once the most handsome in Europe, is unrecognizable. The pain is unbearable. He screams. The pustules burst, oozing foul liquid. The smell is so bad that servants vomit. Doctors wear vinegar-soaked masks. Louis, vain his whole life, orders every mirror removed. He cannot bear to see what he has become. He knows he is dying. In moments of clarity, he confesses his sins, begs forgiveness from God and the French people. On 10 May 1774, after 12 days of agony, Louis XV dies at 3:15 p.m. The reaction is relief. In Paris, people dance in the streets. Church bells stay silent. No mourning. The body is so infectious and putrefied that normal embalming is impossible. Alcohol is poured in. The coffin sealed with lead. No lying in state, no grand procession. The coffin is rushed to Saint-Denis at night, almost secretly, escorted by 40 pages. Crowds along the route jeer and throw mud. At the basilica, the stench is still so bad that many faint. The bishop cuts the service short. Louis the Well-Beloved is buried like toxic waste. His grandson, 19-year-old Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette ascend the throne whispering in terror, "God protect us. We are too young." 15 years later, the French Revolution will prove Louis XVI right. Après Louis, le déluge. Friends, Louis XV's story is not just royal gossip. It's a masterclass in what not to do with power. Indecision destroys empires. Louis hated making hard choices. He let favorites rule, lesson, take responsibility, lead decisively, or someone worse will lead for you. Pleasure over duty is a slow suicide. He chose mistresses and hunting over governing, lesson. Short-term pleasure always costs long-term pain. Discipline today equals freedom tomorrow. Ignore the people's pain and they will ignore yours. He lived in luxury while France starved, lesson. True power comes from service, not exploitation. Moral rot spreads. His personal corruption infected the entire system, lesson. Your private choices shape your public legacy. Reform too late is no reform. He knew the system was broken but did nothing, lesson. Fix the roof while the sun is shining. Louis XVI began as the hope of a nation and died abandoned and rotting. But you still have time. Don't wait for your own smallpox moment. Take control, make the hard choices, serve something bigger than yourself. Because history remembers two types of people, those who build and those who let everything burn. Which one will you be? If this story shook you, motivated you, or made you see power differently, do 3 things right now. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Subscribe to Empress Secrets and hit the bell because every week we drop untold royal stories that will change how you see power, love, and destiny. Comment below what shocked you the most, the rotting death, the mistresses, or how fast love turned to hate. This is Empress Secrets, where history's hidden queens and fallen kings teach us how to rise. Stay royal, stay powerful. Goodbye.